All gamers have their opinion on favorite weapons. Be it their preferred means of killing the guy guarding the flag, to their favorite gun to dispatch hordes of zombies, to just loving the silly results of pulling the trigger. Weapons can be handheld, mounted on vehicles, nailed to the ground, dropped from planes, swung, shot, thrown, and buried. It goes without saying that certain games are made by the weapons they have hidden away. There are weapons that have even defined entire genres. It is because of this that it gets so hard to decide which ones are the best of the best, and when it comes down to it, that sort of decision is impossible to make as a broad conclusion. Everybody will have his or her own personal preference. That being said, I figured I'd go ahead and put together my own list of my top 10 favorite video game weapons. Why listen to my specific favorites? Well, I like to think that my choice in games is a bit far from the norm, so I'd be willing to bet that this list will be fairly different from the others out there. So, without any further delay, let the destruction begin! Games in the Mega Man series are relatively famous for special weapons and upgrades. Ever since the highly useful Magnet Beam from the very first game, the Blue Bomber has always had something extra up his sleeve. The X series is no exception, and with the addition of hidden armor capsules, the possibility for new skills extended nearly tenfold. And while armor later on in the series have offered expansions such as limited flight, level maps, and invincible dash attacks, no special functions have appealed to me as much as the Giga Crush from the second game. Call me crazy, but I believe that absorbing lasers, explosives, spiked frisbees, and even projectile garbage, then getting full payback by blowing up the entire screen in one shot, is something that is worth calling cool. Who wouldn't want to get that kind of revenge? I'll show you what happens when you shoot garbage at me. Everybody everywhere knows about a lightsaber. It may be the one Zero wields, it may be the tool of choice of the Jedi, or it may be toted by an 80-foot-tall Gundam. But in my opinion, none of those hold a candle to the weapon of choice of Mr. Travis Touchdown. First of all, the Beam Katana, otherwise known as either Bloodberry or the Tsubaki 1, 2, or 3, has a unique and interesting design. Anyone can think of a handle with energy coming up, but the Beam Katana offered something fresh in terms of style and design. Then, there's the blood. Us Americans got lucky and we were gifted with a retooled version of the game where enemies didn't simply fall down or disappear when Travis cut them. They exploded in a bloody mess. This is how the Beam Katana should work, and let me tell you, there's something very rewarding about cutting through droves of bad guys. The only thing that makes the Beam Katana even cooler is Dark Side mode, where the weapon is used in different, more destructive ways that parody everything good and corny about video games and anime. Tell me you've honestly heard of a better super attack name than Blueberry Cheese Brownie. Arguably, one of the coolest parts of the first Metroid Prime game was the final battle. I'll admit that when I originally got the Phazon suit, and read the words Hyper Beam in the logbook, I spent about 20 minutes trying to use it. So finally being able to use it in the final battle had me pretty satisfied. The deadly radioactive substance that you have to deal with for the whole game becomes your strongest weapon in the end, and it couldn't be much cooler, right? Well, along came Metroid Prime 3. The title, Corruption, hints towards the special ability you get almost right at the beginning of the game, Hyper Mode. That's right, the radioactive laser beams that you must savor for one fight in 2 games becomes an option to use for the entire third. By injecting Phazon into your energy tanks, and having the proper power-ups in place, you turn all of your basic weapons into destructive super weapons. You get everything. A Phazon beam, a charged Gatling gun shot, hyper missiles, a powered grapple beam, and a lightning aura for the morph ball. All at the low, low price of infecting yourself with a highly toxic mutagen from space. Just be careful not to let all that power get to you. 2 Metroid Prime weapons in a row, madness. I knew as soon as I thought of this list that the Wave Buster would be included here. It may be an incredibly ammo-heavy weapon, but it more than makes up for that in power. And in usefulness, plus it's just plain cool. Upon firing the Wave Beam charge combo, you unleash an electric chain that locks onto targeted, or just nearby enemies, and slowly but surely electrocutes them to death. Now, I'm biased in favor of electricity, but that doesn't change how awesome that is. Its only drawback is that it costs 10 missiles to fire and another 5 every second afterwards. In addition to the gratuitous amounts of damage the weapon does, It also stuns enemies while they're being hit, which causes them to lose the ability to fight back as well, making the weapon almost unfair in a way. I can't think of many weapons that force the enemy to simply sit back and take the punishment all in one shot. Axelay's weapon design was very interesting for a shoot-'em-up, with weapons ranging from lasers to missiles to bombs to homing laser needles. It should come as no surprise to hear that the final weapon of the game would be something strong, versatile, and very cool overall, just what the Wind Laser is. The Wind Laser combines all of the strongest points of the three weapon types into one: the forward power of a pod weapon, the versatility and area of a side weapon, and the penetrating explosive power of a bay weapon. Essentially, the laser is the best of all three worlds. Firing from behind and arcing to fire straight ahead, the laser can be aimed either outwards or inwards to attack different areas of the screen, all backed by immense power that can punch through enemies, projectiles, and terrain. For lack of a better term, the weapon is unstoppable. Not to mention it looks cool and makes a strangely hypnotic sound.